Thanks for tuning in. Let me know where you're watching from. Let's get started. The blue light from multiple monitors cast a harsh glow across Jack Miller's office as the clock struck midnight. His coffee, the third cup of the evening, sat untouched beside his ergonomic keyboard. Most CEOs would have delegated this level of security analysis, but Jack had built Sentinel cybersecurity solutions from the ground up by staying hands-on. The anomaly in Rogers Development's logs caught his attention, like a misplaced pixel in a perfect image. His eyes narrowed as he leaned forward, fingers dancing across the keyboard as he dug deeper into the data. 3 a.m. logins from the Cayman, he muttered, pulling up the IP trace. The credentials belonged to Kyle Rogers, his supposed best friend since college. Initially, he almost dismissed it. Kyle was known for his frequent business trips and odd working hours, but something about the pattern set off warning bells in Jack's mind. The sound of footsteps in the otherwise empty office made him look up. Liam Harris, his head of security, stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. The former NSA analyst's expression was carefully neutral, but Jack knew that look. It meant trouble. "Sir, we've completed that sweep of Megan Cordova's devices you requested," Liam said, his voice measured. "You might want to take a look at this." Jack gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Show me." Liam pulled up a series of maps and timestamps on his tablet. "We've identified a pattern in Megan's movements. Every Wednesday and Sunday, like clockwork, her phone connects to a Wi-Fi network named Rogers Guest House." He paused, sliding the tablet across the desk. "The address isn't Kyle's main residence." Jack's jaw tightened as he studied the location. The Archer, one of downtown's most exclusive apartment complexes. "How long?" 6 months that we can confirm," Liam replied. "But there's more," he added. "Remember those fertility clinic appointments Megan mentioned, the ones she's been going to for the past 3 months? Jack nodded, his voice steady despite the growing tension in his shoulders. Liam pulled up another set of data. Her phone never once connected to the clinic's network, but on those exact dates and times. He let the sentence hang as he showed Jack another map, pinning the same luxury apartment building. Jack leaned back in his chair, his expression hardening. "Pull everything you can find on that apartment. Property records, utilities, surveillance footage. I want to know who owns it and who's been there." "Already on it," Liam confirmed. "We've also noticed some interesting patterns in the Rogers Development's network traffic. Their financial servers have been receiving encrypted data bursts during those same time windows." "Expand the surveillance net," Jack ordered, turning back to his monitors. "Full spectrum, digital and physical. I want eyes and ears on both of them." Liam stood, pausing at the door. "Sir, if this goes where I think it's going, this could get messy. Rogers Developments is our biggest client." Jack's reflection in the darkened monitor showed no emotion. "Then we better make sure we have ironclad evidence." He pulled up another window, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Liam, keep this between us for now. No one else needs to know." Liam nodded and left, closing the door silently behind him. Alone again, Jack pulled up his personal files. Photos from better days filled the screen. His wedding day, family gatherings, fishing trips with Kyle. His cursor hovered over a recent image. Megan at his parents' anniversary dinner, sitting suspiciously close to Kyle, both laughing at some private joke. He opened his secure messaging system and typed out a brief message to Emily Carter, a forensic accountant he had worked with on previous cases. "Need a discrete analysis. Sending files now. Priority level. Alpha." The pieces were starting to form a pattern, and Jack Miller had built his career on recognizing patterns. As he began compiling the data, a plan was already taking shape in his mind. They thought they were being clever, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail. In the digital age, every action leaves a trace. And Jack was very, very good at following traces. Jack nodded, pulling out his laptop. 3 years ago, Kyle convinced my father to invest his entire pension. Dad then leveraged his position as a retired judge to bring in his friends from the country club. He pulled up a spreadsheet. The total exposure is approximately $50 million in retirement funds. Agent Donovan leaned forward, her expression grim. "Those recordings you provided, they're exactly what we needed. But we've uncovered something that makes this case priority 1. She slid a classified folder across the table. "Your friend Kyle has connections we didn't expect." Rachel picked up the thread. Last month I found documents linking Roger's development to shell companies in Dubai. The timing is crucial. Kyle's planning to flee with the money after the engagement party. He already has a private jet on standby. Of course he does. Jack's voice carried a sharp edge. Always had a flair for the dramatic. Agent Donovan pulled up surveillance photos on the room's main screen. We've been tracking his movements. Weekly meetings with known members of international fraud syndicates. Your company's security systems caught what our standard surveillance missed. The irony isn't lost on me, Jack remarked. He's been using my own security infrastructure to conduct his illegal operations. Rachel shifted uncomfortably, one hand resting on her belly. There's something else you need to know, Jack. The pregnancy. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Kyle's been telling everyone he's the father, but I found medical records suggesting otherwise. Classic misdirection, Agent Donovan interjected. Keep everyone focused on the personal drama while the real crime continues. Jack's expression remained neutral, but his eyes hardened. What's our next move? We need more, Agent Donovan stated flatly. The offshore accounts, the fake construction projects. We need to prove they're all connected. Your surveillance gave us probable cause, but we need concrete evidence of the money trail. I can help with that. Jack opened another file on his laptop. My team's been tracking every digital footprint. What we found. He turned the screen toward them, showing complex financial diagrams. It's not just about the money. They're using the construction projects to launder funds from multiple sources. Rachel leaned forward, her prosecutor's instincts kicking in. This is exactly what we need, but we have to move carefully. If Kyle's suspects were onto him, he won't hesitate to cover his tracks. He's too convinced of his own brilliance. Jack's voice carried absolute certainty. That's always been his weakness. Agent Donovan nodded approvingly. We'll need to coordinate our moves carefully. Your parents' involvement complicates things. My parents made their choice. Jack's tone was ice cold. They chose their side when they decided to back him over their own son. There's one more thing, Rachel added, pulling out a final document. The engagement party they're planning. It's not just a celebration. Based on the guest list, it's a gathering of every major player in their scheme. One location, all the targets together. Perfect timing. Agent Donovan smiled grimly. But we'll need someone on the inside. Someone they won't suspect. Jack's laptop pinged with an incoming message. He read it quickly, his expression darkening. That won't be a problem. My mother just sent me an invitation. Apparently, they want me there to handle things gracefully. Can you maintain cover? Agent Donovan asked directly. Personal involvement can complicate operations. Jack's laugh held no humor. Agent Donovan, I've been maintaining cover since I first spotted those login anomalies. They have no idea who they're really dealing with. Rachel touched her belly again, her expression hardening. Just remember, when this all goes down, Kyle's mine to prosecute. He's going to learn what it means to betray the wrong people. Agreed. Jack stood, gathering his materials. But first, we need to let them think they're winning. The more confident they get, the more mistakes they'll make. Agent Donovan finished. We'll set up secure communication channels. Everything goes through this office only. As they concluded the meeting, Rachel caught Jack's arm. Thank you, she said quietly, for being the one who finally caught him. Jack's response was simple. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people destroy themselves. He gathered his things, his mind already moving to the next phase of their plan. Jack Miller floated through the crowd, his designer dress hugging his pregnant belly, a strategic prop. Kyle Rogers stood at his side, his arm around her waist, scanning the room with practiced ease. On the other side of the building, Agent Donovan's voice came through Jack's earpiece. Dubai office confirmed their readiness. Interpol set. Facial recognition on all targets. Jordan Blake relayed from another monitor. We've got representatives from 3 international crime syndicates here. They're here to collect. Jack's eyes narrowed. Not today. Harold Miller, Jack's father, was nervously chatting near the stage. Jack's wire was picking up fragments of his father's conversations, key intel for the final move. Emily Carter, Jack's tech lead, spoke into his ear. They're trying to access the airfield systems early. They're prepping the jet. Let them try, Jack said coldly. Our backdoor in their flight systems is secure. That plane isn't going anywhere. The club's Wi-Fi lit up as guests arrived, and Jack's surveillance network activated. Every connection funneled into Sentinel's monitoring systems, ensuring no one could slip through undetected. Agent Donovan updated. Your mother is with the country club board members, talking about the next phase of investments. Jack watched his mother's smooth socializing. She was just as manipulative as the rest. Tonight would strip her of that pretense. Protocol Echo. Now, Jack commanded. Simultaneously, his hidden algorithms took control. Every attempt at transferring funds was rerouted into FBI-controlled accounts, making every illicit deal traceable. At 8:45 p.m., Harold Miller approached the microphone, nervous. Kyle raised his glass, expecting praise from his future father-in-law. Megan, Jack's wife, was clearly pleased. Execute, Jack ordered. By 8:47, everything fell into place. Rogers Development's accounts froze worldwide. Emergency alerts flooded the phones of executives. Before Kyle could get a word out, Harold stepped forward and confessed to the fraud, reading from cards Jack had prepared for him. Megan's confident grin faltered as she whispered to Kyle, "They know? We have to go." But it was too late. The club's main screens flickered, revealing the fraud, fake projects, offshore accounts, money laundering. Jordan had crafted a devastating visual display. Kyle bolted for the exit, only to find Agent Donovan waiting for him. "Robert Rogers, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy against the United States." Megan, her face twisted in rage, ran for the private entrance but found it locked. Jack's security systems had anticipated every move. "This is impossible," she screamed. "The jet is waiting." Jack held up his phone, showing the grounded flight plan. "Plans change," he said, eyes cold. "You," she snarled. "You pathetic excuse for a husband. Fraud suits you better," Jack replied. The investigation unfolded with ruthless efficiency. Jack's cybersecurity team tracked every illegal transaction, dismantling the criminal network from the inside out. 53 employees facing charges. Major players already flipped, Agent Donovan reported. Even the legitimate ones had no idea they were aiding the fraud. Jordan handed over his tablet. "We found personal cloud files." Megan was planning to betray Kyle. She was skimming off the top, setting up her own accounts. Jack scrolled through the files, disbelief setting in. She was hedging her bets. Multiple fathers, multiple paydays. "Not just that," Rachel Dean said, entering the room. "DNA tests show Kyle isn't the father. It's one of the board members." Jack's laugh was cold. She was playing everyone. Megan had built an insurance policy, manipulating everyone to further her own agenda. The truth was out. The fraud was everywhere, stretching across continents. Jack leaned back in his chair. "We've got them. Their empire is finished." A year later, Jack stood at his office window, looking out over the city. Sentinel's cybersecurity solutions was thriving, its reputation secure. The Durham Guest House, once a symbol of wealth and deceit, was now a shelter for victims of fraud. Agent Donovan entered, now no longer just an agent, but a partner in every sense. Sentences are final. The masterminds are behind bars. "Good," Jack said, watching as the last of the guilty were taken into custody. "Next time, we get to pick the playing field." Erica announced her entrance into Jack's office, holding a tablet that displayed the latest news headlines. Their marriage 5 years ago had not only merged their lives, but also their missions. Megan's latest appeal had been rejected. Life hadn't been kind to the former Mrs. Miller. After serving her initial 5-year sentence, she'd violated parole by attempting to run another smaller-scale fraud scheme. The judge, coincidentally Rachel Dean, had shown no mercy. Megan now faced another 15 years behind bars, her designer clothes replaced by prison orange. Her once proud bearing had been shattered by the weight of her choices. "How's she handling it?" Jack asked, more curious than concerned. "Not well," Erica replied. "According to the prison reports, she's aged 20 years in 10. Turns out luxury spa treatments aren't available in federal prison." Erica set the tablet down. She tried writing another tell-all book, but no publisher would touch it. Seems her reputation preceded her. The child? Jack inquired. Adopted by the real father's family, Erica continued. After DNA tests revealed the truth, they moved overseas. Megan won't ever be able to use the child as a pawn again. Kyle Rogers' fate had been even harsher. 10 years into his 20-year sentence, he had transformed from the charismatic fraudster into a bitter, gray-haired shell of his former self. His attempts to run schemes from prison had backfired spectacularly, earning him more time and isolation. Durham made another request to speak with you, Jordan Blake reported, entering the office with the daily security briefing. The former analyst now ran Sentinel's fraud prevention division. He claims to have information about other conspirators. Jack dismissed the request with a wave. Same lie, different day. He burned his last chance 5 years ago when he tried to implicate innocent people to reduce his sentence. The Durham name had become synonymous with fraud in financial circles, and business schools now used his case as a cautionary tale about unchecked greed and the dangers of hiding financial crimes in the digital age. Margaret Miller's transformation had been the most surprising. After her house arrest ended, she experienced what she called an awakening. Now, she lived in a modest apartment, volunteering full-time at the Victim Support Center housed in the former Durham guest house. Your mother's program is showing remarkable results, Rachel Dean remarked during their monthly foundation board meeting. Her daughter, Justice, now 12, sat beside her, taking notes, already showing signs of following in her mother's legal footsteps. The victims she counsels have the highest recovery rate of any group, Rachel added. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman who had once valued social status above all else now found purpose in helping those harmed by similar attitudes. Her relationship with Jack had slowly healed, built on hard truths and earned trust. Harold Miller had passed away 2 years earlier, but not before seeing the foundation he helped establish assist thousands of fraud victims. His last years were spent documenting his experiences and creating training materials to help law enforcement identify similar schemes. Dad would be proud, Jack remarked during one foundation meeting. The prevention programs are working. We've stopped 12 major fraud attempts this year alone. The foundation had grown beyond anyone's expectations, with offices in 15 countries and over $500 million recovered for victims. More importantly, they had changed how the financial industry approached security. Antoine Monroe, still heading security at Sentinel, had developed cutting-edge fraud detection algorithms now considered industry standard. Your father's testimony helped us understand how these schemes exploit trust, he explained during a training session. Now we can spot the patterns before they grow. The professional relationship between Sentinel and the FBI's Financial Crimes Division had evolved into a model of public-private partnership. Erica's former team, now led by one of her protégés, worked seamlessly with Jack's analysts to prevent digital financial crimes. Remember when they called it internet security nonsense? Erica smiled during a joint task force briefing. Now, every major financial institution uses our systems. Rachel's judicial career had soared. Her experience with the Durham case had made her the foremost authority on financial crime sentencing, and her reforms had been adopted nationwide, creating a more effective framework for prosecuting white-collar criminals. Justice asked about the case again. Rachel noted during a family dinner. She's writing a paper on it for her law preparation class. What did you tell her? Jack asked his goddaughter. That sometimes the worst criminals wear suits and carry briefcases, Justice replied, her wisdom beyond her years. And that Uncle Jack taught us how to catch them. The Durham guest house had become a symbol of transformation. The luxury apartments that once hosted illicit meetings now housed a comprehensive support center for fraud victims. The building's transformation mirrored the broader changes in society's approach to financial crime. We had another success story today, Margaret reported during one of her weekly calls with Jack. A family who lost everything to a scheme similar to Kyle's. We helped them rebuild, gave them justice, got their lives whole again. The country club crowd that had once dismissed Jack had been replaced by a new generation of business leaders who valued integrity over appearance. The annual Fraud Prevention Conference, held in the same ballroom where the Durham developments had fallen apart, now attracted global leaders in finance and technology. Megan's former sister, who had once enabled her schemes, now worked with the foundation's outreach program, using her experience to help identify potential victims before they were drawn into similar frauds. She asked about Megan again, Erica mentioned after a foundation event. Has she shown any remorse? Only for getting caught, Erica replied. Some people never learn. The international aspects of the case had led to strengthened financial regulations worldwide. The same banks that had once facilitated Kyle's schemes now used Sentinel systems to prevent fraud. Jordan's team had expanded to include former law enforcement and intelligence analysts. We're not just catching criminals anymore, Jordan explained during a strategy session. We're changing how people think about financial security. The Foundation's latest initiative focused on education, teaching students about financial responsibility and the importance of due diligence. They named it the Harold Miller Program for Financial Integrity, ensuring his redemption story would continue to inspire others. As Jack watched another sunset from his office window, he reflected on the decade of changes. The city skyline had evolved, but the fundamental lesson remained. In the digital age, truth eventually surfaces, and karma arrives wearing handcuffs and carrying audit reports. Ready to head home? Erica asked. The family's waiting. We've adopted 2 children, Jack replied. We gave them the stable, honest home both of us wished for in our childhoods. Almost, Jack added, checking one last alert on his system. Another potential scheme identified. Should we wait until morning? What would your father say? Erica asked. That justice doesn't take vacations. Jack smiled, already typing commands to initiate surveillance. But it does work better after a good night's sleep. As they left the office, Justice's question from years ago echoed in Jack's mind. Why do people do bad things? The answer was still the same, but now it carried a decade of wisdom. They do bad things because they think they won't get caught. But in a world where truth flows through digital rivers and justice speaks in ones and zeros, the bad guys always lose. And somewhere, in a federal prison cell, Megan and Kyle had a very long time to think about that truth.